In this session, we will learn squares and cubes. Square roots. Let us see how we can find the square root of a number. Let us take 144 as an example. As we learnt in the HCF and LCM video, let us factorize 144 into its prime factors. 144 has 4 2's and 2 3's as its prime factors. We now take one prime factor for each pair of prime factors. So we have 2 2's and 1 3. Multiply them to get the square root of 144. Therefore, the square root of 144 is 2 into 2 into 3 equal to 12. This also means that 12 into 12 or 12 squared is 144. Cube roots. Let us see how to find the cube root of a number. As before, we factorize the number into its prime factors. 216 has 3 2's and 3 3's as its prime factor. We then take one prime factor for every 3 prime factors. So we have 1 2 and 1 3. We now multiply them to get the cube root. So the cube root of 216 is 6. This also means 6 into 6 into 6 or 6 cubed is 216. Let us now look at some tips and shortcuts. Perfect squares. A perfect square is a number that has a whole number as its square root. As we saw in the earlier example, 144 is a perfect square. A perfect square will never end with 2, 3, 7 or 8. Perfect cubes. A perfect cube is a number that has a whole number as its cube root. As we saw in the earlier example, 216 is a perfect cube. A perfect cube with 1, 4, 5, 6, 9, 0 in units place will have the same digits in the units place of its cube root. For example, cube root of 64 is 4. A perfect cube with 8 in units place will have 2 in the units place of its cube root. A perfect cube with 7 in the units place will have 3 in the units place of its cube root. A perfect cube with 3 in its units place will have 7 in the units place of its cube root. A perfect cube with 2 in its units place will have 8 in the units place of its cube root. Memorizing the squares and cubes of the first 20 numbers will be helpful while doing quick mental calculations in the exam. It is important how to learn to factor quickly. There are many important shortcuts for factoring a number. For example, if the sum of digits is a multiple of 3, then 3 is a factor. If the sum of digits is a multiple of 3 and the number is even, then 6 is a factor.